thanks everybody for coming. This is the HazardHub product session at Connections. We're very thrilled to have you here. So the title of this session is How to Use HazardHub to Drive Profitable Growth and Portfolio Management. My name is Pat Ma. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for HazardHub. I'm joined today by Tammy Schwartz. She's the Senior Director of Analytics at Guidewire. Here's the agenda for the next 35 minutes or so. I want to show you HazardHub, show you the product, and talk about how some of our customers are using the product. Then we're going to talk about 3 popular use cases for this product. Tammy will do this section, using real-world examples from her illustrious career in insurance. We want this session to be fun and interactive and relevant for you. If you have any questions about anything you see here, please submit them using the Guidewire mobile app. We'll get to your questions at the end, or save your questions for the live Q&A session at the end. Our goal at the end of this session is to show you the product and to show you how HazardHub helps insurers grow their business. Any forward-looking statement we make in this presentation is covered under this safe harbor statement. All right, let's get into it. Let's meet HazardHub. What is HazardHub? HazardHub is simply the most comprehensive property risk data set ever created. And this isn't just Guidewire saying this. Our customers also categorize our product in such fashion as well. There's over 1,400 data points in this product covering all major perils and hazards. This product is targeted at underwriters, actuaries, and product managers because the data in this product helps them make better insurance decisions. You can access this data via Guidewire apps or through our API. Here's a simplified view of all the products or all the data that we offer. We have 1,400 plus data points. It's too many to list on the slide. We've packaged all of our data points into 6 data products. They are property risks, property characteristics, replacement cost, permits, Canadian property risk, and casualty data. For property risk, we package all our natural perils and man-made hazards to you under one API call. So there's 950 data variables in that API call. To make this more real, what I'd love to do now is to show you the product. All right. So this is the problem that we're solving for. Underwriters, they are under a lot of pressure to make quick and accurate decisions about every property that, or every submission that they get. The problem is that they need a lot of data to do so. And what our customers are doing before HazardHub is they're literally scouring the web and they're piecing together multiple pieces of data on Excel spreadsheets. So HazardHub makes their life a lot easier because we aggregate all the data that they need to make and justify their decisions. We embed this data into their core system and we integrate it within their workflow. Let me show you how. So what you're looking at here, this is HazardHub data embedded into Policy Center. We have a submission for this location. This is the Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center. The way this works is that if you have HazardHub, as soon as a submission hits Policy Center, all the locations in that submission are automatically enriched with HazardHub data. So your underwriting teams, as soon as they log into Policy Center, they have all this rich insights into every location on that submission. So let's make an underwriting decision about this submission as if you were an underwriter. All right, so the first thing you look at here, take a look at this box here. This is an overview of findings. So Policy Center is recommending that you decline or consider alternative pricing for this policy. And this is a custom recommendation for you based off of your company's underwriting rules and HazardHub data. In essence, HazardHub is making your core system smarter. We are turning your system of record into a system of insight. Now that you have a general idea on what to do with this policy, you want data to justify your decision. And for that, let's take a look at the second box here. This is your geospatial insights data. So you can see where this property is located on a Google map. You get enhanced property information, valuation information, mortgage information, and replacement costs with low, medium, high estimates for this particular property. So this gives you situational awareness about the property without having to visit the site. Now you're probably wanting to understand the risks associated with this location so you can avoid the high replacement costs in case of a catastrophic event. And for that, let's take a look at the perils. So down here, this is all of our perils. We have 40 of them. They are color coordinated and sortable, so underwriters, you can easily scan and see what are your high risk items. We even have a search bar up here, so you can search for the peril that you want in question. So let's take a look at some of these data points closer. So for flood, FEMA scores this property as a B with minimal to no risk of flooding. However, HazardHub, we score this property as a F with a very high risk of flood damage. And in fact, this property did flood in 2010. So back then, there was 17 feet of water in the Cascades lobby where all of you checked in. And this catastrophic event, it caused $250 million worth of damage and shut this business down for 6 months. So this is the type of comprehensive and accurate insights that only HazardHub can provide. Now, you might be wondering, what's the difference between these 3 flood scores? How come we have 3 of them? Well, it's because HazardHub has all this data. Again, we're the most comprehensive data provider. So we're able to model more scenarios, create more scores, and give you additional points of view to risk that other third-party data providers can't provide. Let's take a look at another data point here. All right, so HazardHub is great at uncovering hidden risks. So we have a score here, underground storage tanks. For any one of these scores, you can click on the score, and it unveils all the parameters that make up the score and the raw data. So for underground storage tanks, it turns out that we are sitting on top of 8 leaking underground storage tanks within a quarter-mile radius from us, and one of them is actually located on this property. These tanks, they contain petroleum and hazardous chemicals. When they leak, they cost potentially millions of dollars worth of damage, and as an underwriter, you would want to know this information. So as an underwriter, you're looking at all this information, you're assessing your risks, you're looking at the replacement cost, and in your judgment, you might, for example, you might raise the premium on this policy to make up for the risk. So this is how underwriters can quickly and accurately assess risk for any property using HazardHub data. As you see, we make it incredibly easy for them because we aggregate all the data that they need to make and justify their decisions. We embed it into their core system, and we integrate it within their workflow. So no more scouring the web and piecing together data into spreadsheets. This works for any US address. If you're curious about seeing the risk for your address, please come down to our demo booth here, and Paul will punch in your address, and you can see all the geospatial insights and all the perils around your address, and then make a determination whether you need to buy more insurance. All right, so let's go back to the slides here. So how are customers using this data in the real world? Swiss Re, they're one of the largest reinsurers in the world. They are using HazardHub data to power their property insights product. This enables their underwriting teams to assess individual risk quickly and accurately. They looked at a lot of third-party data providers out there, and they concluded that HazardHub was the best when it came to property insights or property data. To make this more real, we shot a short video about their use case. I'd love to show you that video now.
We are one of the top tier reinsurers, and we've also evolved into reinsurance solutions. We set out to sell risk insights and risk tools. We partner with what we perceive to be the best-in-class market providers of data and risk models. We went to HazardHub because we kept hearing about HazardHub. Clients kept saying they're using HazardHub. Our most prominent property product on our Impact Plus App Store is Property Insights. The most common way to interact with it is to search an individual address or a set of addresses, then retrieve all of the data that they need for that location. And the most common thing that we hear is amazement at the HazardHub data because it is just so vast and very, very useful for specific perils. You're getting more than 1,000 data attributes. And you can use this information to make more precise underwriting decisions and rating decisions.
Well, if you're concerned about wildfire, HazardHub has all this information. It can tell you which zone you're in, and it can show you the incidental fire score. The fire suppression score measures the ability of a building to suppress the fire. People are very interested in this because they don't want a building to be a total loss. Many of our customers are interested in severe weather scores, basically tornado, lightning, and hail. And HazardHub also provides data on that.
You then comb through all of the information and make a sound underwriting decision. In effect, HazardHub enables underwriters to make better decisions at a faster speed with higher accuracy.
So what you've seen from the product demo and from the Swiss Re video is just a sampling of our 1,400 plus data points. We are constantly adding new data and new scores into this product. Here's a timeline of what we've released so far and what's coming in the future. I got a lot of questions about roadmap this morning, so here's a roadmap. I don't have time to speak about all these features and data points, but I want to speak about one, which is Canadian property risks. So for the first time, we are expanding our footprint outside the United States, starting off with Canada. You can quickly and accurately assess risk for Canadian properties. We are starting off with 100 data elements across 13 risk factors. To learn more about this, please come down to our booth. We'll punch in a Canadian address and you can see all the data returned for that property. I talked a lot about how HazardHub is used for underwriting. This product is also geared towards product managers and actuaries as well for pricing and product management use cases. To talk more about that, I'd like to invite Tammy Schwartz up on stage. And as she's getting up here, I want to just say a few words about Tammy in the spirit of the community theme. So Tammy, on top of her day job here, she volunteers helping wildfire-prone communities in California. So she helps these communities by assessing their risk using data, by manually clearing brush around homes so they have defensible space, and by securing funding. And for one community in particular, the Aldercroft Heights community in San Jose, she successfully secured $2 million worth of funding for this community, which led to the building of a safe escape route for them in case of a wildfire. And it helped secure the drinking water for the 2 million residents in Santa Clara Valley. So thank you, Tammy. Here's Tammy to talk about use cases.
Thanks, Pat. So I'm Tammy. I'm a survivor. It's been 4 years, 2 months, and 15 days since my last rate indication. I started my career in the insurance industry, spent over 25 years there. And I'm going to use this image of an insurance marketplace to show you how my career kind of began. Up there in the top left-hand corner, you'll see me celebrating my 5th actuarial exam. And then shortly thereafter, I proceeded up the golden stairs to become a product manager and convince state execs that double-digit rate increases were in their best interest. Shortly thereafter, I went into commercial lines. I got my CPCU. I fiddled around. Commercial lines is a dirty business. You can see me down there at the bottom mopping up. My motorcycle's parked in the right-hand corner there. And then eventually I ended up at the top of the tallest building, standing on a ledge. I was the VP of Underwriting and Operations at the California Fair Plan in 2008 when Woolsey and the Camp Fire happened and the mass exodus of the industry left the wildfire areas and came running to the Fair Plan. Our new business tripled from about 1,000 policies a month to 3,000. So I feel you. I know what you're going through, and I'm hoping that my experience can help you see the value of HazardHub. So first, a little bit about product management. Now, when you're managing any product, there's really 3 things that you want. You want to do something that your competitors can't do, something that you can do really well, and something that the market really needs. And if you can do those 3 things, generally you'll have a successful product. Insurance is similar, the only difference being that insurance is the only product you sell before you actually know the price. But other than that, it's really the same 3 circles. For what we do well, we consider those things that we can write profitably. And the things, when the competition doesn't do it well, that drives up our retention. And if the market demands it, then we'll start to see a lot of new business growth in that area. So for insurance, the trifecta the sweet spot would be profitability, retention, and market opportunity. And I've worked on a lot of states in my career, a lot of lines of business, so I'm going to cover a couple of examples of 3 problem states. Minnesota, we were profitable there, but we weren't growing, and we couldn't keep customers. In Alabama, we had great retention, but we weren't making any money, and we weren't growing, we weren't competitive. And in California, kind of the same situation we have today, lots of new business opportunity, but nobody's making money, and nobody's retaining customers, mostly today because we don't want them. So first in Minnesota, we were profitable. About 30% of Minnesota is in protection class 9 and 10. It's the home of 10,000 lakes, so there's a lot of dry hydrants. One of the classification vendors doesn't recognize dry hydrants for class 9, and so at Farmers, we had to make manual underwriting exceptions to allow protection class 9 business that actually had hydrants. So we would have agents out there taking pictures of hydrants to prove that they were within 1,000 feet, and then we would allow that property to be written. And in class 10, we would make exceptions for business that was less than 7 miles from the fire station, but not more than 7 miles. And so it was difficult, but we managed through. Today, if I were to be faced with this same problem, I would use HazardHub. And I would use what we're calling a fire suppression score. So in this map here of Ramsey County in Minnesota, you can see fire districts surrounded by black lines. And within each of those fire districts, you can see a range of risk. The yellow is the low risk, and the bright red is the high risk. And that's based on their fire suppression capacity. And so any single district in here right now, you probably have to give them all the same rate. And you can see within each district, there's a large variety of rates that would be appropriate. Our fire suppression score includes 4 things. Drive time, so we look at the drive time from the nearest station, and we also look at the drive time of the nearest 3 stations to see how many can get there within 6 minutes. We also consider whether or not there are volunteer stations that would be responding. We look at the actual distance to the hydrant, and we consider whether it's 250 feet or 1,500 feet. Those all contribute to the score, and then whether or not there's perennial water. Another example is Alabama. So in Alabama, we had great retention. We couldn't write any new business, and we weren't making money. And so we decided to use a split deductible. How many of you have ever heard of a split deductible? You kind of have this with your dentist. When you go to get a root canal, your deductible is a little bit higher than when you get your teeth cleaned. Kind of same thing with the peril insurance. We introduced a hurricane deductible. So if there was a hurricane, the customer would pay a very large deductible. And if it wasn't a hurricane loss, then they would pay their normal deductible. The problem was we didn't have any programming behind it, and so we just asked our agency force to issue half of their new business with the split deductible and the other half without. Should have been fine. So here's what we did. We sold a lot of hurricane deductibles up in the north, and we didn't sell any hurricane deductibles down south. We had great penetration with the hurricane deductible, but when we had a hurricane, we didn't save any money on losses. So we gave away lots of premium. We didn't save $1. And so if I were to do this today, I would use the HazardHub hurricane score, and I would say if you're a D or an F, I'm going to require you to have a hurricane deductible. And if you're an A or a B, I'm not going to allow you to have a hurricane deductible. Either that or I'm going to price by peril, and then it won't matter, right? And lastly, my favorite, California. So you know there's a new business mandate in California. They want you to write 85% of your market share in the at-risk area. So if you write 10% in the state, you need to write 8.5% in the at-risk area. So in order to improve your loss ratio and your retention by writing the business that's at risk, you can't really use the models that you're using today. Otherwise, the FAIR Plan wouldn't have grown so much. So we're going to recommend that you use a multi-model approach. And this is an example of 3 models. So the first model on this page is CAL FIRE's fire hazard severity zone, they've rated this community, Rancho Bernardo, very high risk. So the entire thing, according to CAL FIRE, is red. We overlaid HazardHub's model, A, B, C, D, F. So F is dark orange. The A's are very low green. And you can see the entire range of risk within this community if you were to use HazardHub's wildfire model. And then on top of that, we look at just the dark orange areas. We're able to see these blue dots. These blue dots are areas that have excellent fire suppression scores. So the blue dots represent less than 3% of the wildfire losses in the state. And so you can write in the very high-risk areas successfully, profitably, if you also use fire suppression score. This is the map of California for the entire state. The blue dots disappear because we're zoomed out so far, but if you want to look at a specific area of the state or a specific portion of your portfolio, we're happy to run a test for you and show you where your blue dots are. So in summary, we talked about 3 states, Minnesota, Alabama, California. We moved Minnesota from the profitability circle into the sweet spot by improving retention and new business. We moved Alabama by improving the market opportunity and the profitability with a split deductible. And we moved California by using a multi-model approach to identify risks that could be written profitably with our current rates. And so what's all of that get? If you were to use HazardHub for pricing for 5 years and take a look at your book of business at the beginning, and then 5 years later, you would see improvement in your loss ratio. And so if we look at the cost of the data in blue, you can see the cumulative cost of the data increasing year after year. And the green is the cumulative change in your policyholder surplus that results from your change in mix of business to big margin policies instead of low margin or negative margin policies. And that red line is your ROI. So we've done this for lots of carriers. The numbers are always different, but the shape is always the same. The blue and the green lines are always increasing. The blue stays really flat, green grows really big, and then we see that ROI spike up and then level out over a 5-year period.
All right, so let's go to Q&A. I think we have 10 more minutes or so. So let's start with the questions that came in on a mobile app. So first question, is there additional pricing?
Is there additional pricing?
So the answer is yes, there's additional pricing.
Is that the cost of HazardHub? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the cost of HazardHub. So yeah, there's additional pricing. If you have PolicyCenter, there's already an integration between PolicyCenter and HazardHub, but you just have to pay for the data, or you can just get the data standalone. It's roughly about $1.25 per API call, but we give you volume discounts as well. So yes, for that question. How often is the data updated?
That depends on which data element we're talking about. So we don't do what our competitors do. We don't run the entire nation of data elements and then freeze them for a year and then sell them to you as they get old and then refresh everything, and you guys have to deal with all this disruption every year. We use live scores. So when you hit our API, we reach out, we pull the data, whatever's available today, you get it, and we give it to you. There are some things with our models. We use several components, and so those things will get updated when they're available. For example, lightning strikes. We may update that every quarter, and wildfire perimeters, we may update annually. So it kind of varies.
All right, third question. How are you collecting the underlying data for HazardHub?
How?
Yes, how?
With lots of people, very smart people, and machine learning.
All right, great. Let's just take questions from the audience. Anybody have questions?
There's one over here.
Okay, let me just run over there with the microphone.
Thank you. Great presentation. So, quick question on your ROI calculation. Is that calculation based on just everything remaining the same? So basically same premium, same everything?
Great
or is
question.
that kind of growth trend based on new business, et cetera, et cetera?
Right, so we fixed it to be not revenue neutral, but policy neutral. So this is the same policies in force throughout the entire 5-year period. The premium does change a little depending on, I mean, every state, every customer is different, but the policy force, we set that to be 0%. If the carrier wants to project a positive PIF change or a negative PIF change, we can do that as well.
All right, got one question here.
Run. Run, Forrest.
Okay, yes.
Hi, so can you use this for other lines of business besides homeowners?
Absolutely.
So for instance, using it for personal auto, using the garaging location, or for farm policies, or even umbrella policies? And do you have clients that are doing that, using it besides for homeowners?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. You can use it for auto. The garaging address would definitely be helpful with your comprehensive coverages. You can also use it for farm, absolutely. The weather, all of that stuff is going to be there and be anything that is location-based, basically HazardHub can help you with.
All right, we got a question on the other side here.
Thank you, Pat. Would you mind sharing if HazardHub includes roof condition and any details you can provide on how you rate roof condition?
Yeah, great question. So HazardHub really says everything in the name. We tell you everything bad that can happen to a house. We look at hazards only, so it's really about whether or not there's a likelihood of that event taking place. We don't tell you whether or not that event will result in damage. So we don't include vulnerability components. We don't include, well, with the exception of fire suppression score, we don't include resiliency components either. So risk is hazard times vulnerability divided by resiliency. And we do the hazard component, and we rely on you for the vulnerability component. And we're currently building a resiliency component. So next year, hopefully, we'll have questions on that.
Any other questions from the live audience here?
One more behind you.
Okay, stay here.
Hi, these 1,400 data elements are available in the US. I'm wondering in other countries, specifically more in Canada, what's available?
There's about 100 data elements that are available for 13 perils. We're working on wildfire, and we've got a long list of things planned for the year to make that more robust. But we did just launch Canada, how long ago, Rachel? 2 weeks ago. So we've got 100 data points out there for you.
All right, one question back here. Go for it.
My question was on the replacement cost estimator. This might be a little too detailed, but could you maybe explain how HazardHub is coming up with those figures?
Yes, we're not. We use E to value for our replacement cost estimator. Does that help? Yeah, okay.
All right, any other questions here? All right, one more question came in from the mobile app. Does HazardHub provide risk accumulation metrics, example, AOI within a geographic centroid?
Did you say AOI?
AOI, yes, within a geographic centroid.
I think they mean average annual loss, the AAL, within a geographic centroid, perhaps. We don't do any loss estimates. Again, because we don't consider vulnerability or resiliency, we're just providing hazards. We're not able to give you the expected loss.
That was me. So AOI was amount of insurance.
Yes.
So like in terms of risk accumulation, you might be worried about writing 5 homes that are in a line or 10. So big consideration in commercial and or personal. So does it do anything on risk accumulation? Does it do anything on geocoding natively, or do you have to geocode outside? And then does it consider any element of risk accumulation?
Okay, so we don't do risk accumulation. Not HazardHub doesn't do risk accumulation metrics. Policy Center may. I think that would be a question. We have several analytics tools, Predict, Tune, Canvas. Some of those may be able to do that. And then what was the second part of your question? Geocoding. So we are not a geocoding company, but we will, if you give us an address, we will find the geocode that matches that address using some vendors that you're probably familiar with. And then we have the option, if you want to give us the address, we'll give you the geocode associated with it and the information associated with that geocode, or you can give us the geocode. And if you're worried about our geocoding accuracy and you know you've pinpointed the risk at this building location, you can give us those locations.
Yeah, thanks. I had a quick question on a follow-up question to some of these questions around where the data comes from. You mentioned there's lots of people involved in collecting that data. We saw that there's like claims, pictures. So does HazardHub just employ a series of data partners, bundle all of that data together, and then sell it back for the $1.25 API cost? Or is there multiple contracts that are needed within using the different data that's sourced?
So neither.
Good.
Yeah. We build them all internally with our own team. We have some teams that are in other countries that support those efforts. We use machine learning with Google Street View to identify hydrants, for example, and then we do QA with actual humans. So it's us, our team, our fingers, searching public databases, basically.
All right, we only have a few minutes here, so let's wrap up. If you want more Q&A, we'll be up here, so after the session, we're more than happy to take your questions. Let me just wrap up with a few pointers. Thanks, Tammy. Okay. All right, so we only got like 2 minutes here, so let's wrap up. So your opinion matters to us. Please go into the mobile app and submit your feedback for this session. We'll use this session to improve for next year. And just to wrap everything up, we talked about HazardHub. We've shown you the product, and hopefully you can see how this product helps insurers grow their business. We have all this great data, 1,400 plus data points, which helps underwriters, actuaries, and product managers make better business decisions. Again, we have a demo booth downstairs. You can come and punch in your address and see all the data that's returned and ask all the questions you want. And then Tammy and I and some folks from the HazardHub team will be up here after this session to answer your questions as well. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy the rest of Connections. Thank you.